startup, StructureFlow, a company that helps lawyers and finance professionals quickly visualize complex legal structures and transactions, was officially launched at the end of May this year. Joining Data Economy is Tim Follett, founder and CEO of the company, to talk about the launch. Thank you for joining me, Tim.
Thanks, Abigail. Pleasure.
Tell us a bit about StructureFlow and the rationale behind the creation of the launch.
So StructureFlow is a piece of software that helps lawyers and finance professionals to easily visualize corporate structures and transactions. And we've been working on developing the software for over a year now. And we've got to the point where it's ready to go in to the market and be used in real live context.
And does the use of StructureFlow essentially cut out the middleman, also known as data scientists?
It doesn't cut out the middleman, I don't think. We're really interested in the data side of StructureFlow. So these structures, corporate structures, they're essentially arrangements of things and relationships between things. And in our world, those things are companies and legal entities, assets, and the relationships are ownership and contractual relationships. And what makes StructureFlow a little bit special compared to other software that you might use to create a structured diagram is that there's a data layer that sits underneath the visual piece. And there's a data model within that data layer. And that data model is, it's something that's evolving over time. And we think there's a lot of really exciting potential there to refine that data model, to make it increasingly granular and to make it more useful. So I'd say, going back to sort of the data scientists, no, actually, we want to start working with some data scientists to further refine the model, to look at ways in which we can utilize the data more intelligently.
And you being the founder of the company, tell me a bit about how long it took you to build the company from scratch, and also what was the gap in the market that you saw that you felt the need to create StructureFlow?
Sure. So I'm a corporate lawyer by background. I spent about 10 years in practice. Good chunk of that time was at a top city law firm, Slaughter and May. And when I was in practice, I have always been quite a visual person. I was creating diagrams to be able to understand complex deals and structures, to be able to discuss them with colleagues and clients. There's this real kind of power in visualization, allows you to explain something very complex very quickly. But the tooling that was available to do that was essentially PowerPoint or Visio. So general purpose, surface layer only diagramming software. And I kept kind of bumping my head against the wall with a number of problems. Creating the diagrams took way too long. Sharing them and collaborating with stakeholders was frustrating. There was a lot of friction. And then the underlying data, by creating a diagram, what you're doing is kind of visualizing data. So you have to have a lawyer that would go through a whole load of contracts, trying to find the key information, and then actually draw out a diagram, maybe handwritten, and then maybe get your secretary to try and put that into PowerPoint. So that whole process was iterative, it was manual. And I thought to myself, surely there has to be a better way of working with these structures and creating these diagrams.
Interesting. And is there a need for organizations to embrace visual storytelling and reduce the reliance on dense text, and why? Why do you think there is a need for that?
I mean, that's a great question, generally, but a question that has quite a lot of force to it in the legal world, where obviously a large part of the work that lawyers do is textual, drafting contracts, analyzing contracts, and diagrams are there in the toolkit. People are creating diagrams, but in my view, they're underutilized at the moment. And I think the reason for that is that there's not a piece of software or tooling that's in the market at the moment which really enables lawyers and investment bankers and accountants, a whole wide range of people who actually work on these deals and these structures, to be able to easily express themselves visually and to think visually and to communicate visually by creating, a diagram. A diagram that links back into an underlying data set and allows everyone to come together, see the same thing, discuss it, and progress a project.
Interesting. And how has the current coronavirus pandemic become a pivot point for future innovation in professional services?
Again, really good question. Generally, but in the legal space, very significant at the moment, because these firms, I think it's fair to say, haven't embraced technology at the same pace as some other sectors and industries. I think there are a number of reasons for that. They're very, historically very cautious, very conservative businesses. They are guardians of their clients' data. And if you go back hundreds of years, a law firm would store all its clients' data, on paper files in the vaults in the same building, and then that moved to storing information in servers on premises. That then moved maybe to having some external data centers that were still owned and essentially controlled by a law firm, and now an increasing shift towards the embrace of cloud-based technology, particularly in I think the UK, Europe, and parts of Asia. And where we are now is a position where the legal world is catching up and is increasingly looking for new, more efficient ways of operating. And there's a lot of pressure on the client side for them to do that, to reduce overheads and costs. And then COVID has come into the equation. And, the first piece here is around allowing people who work at these firms to do what we're doing now, having a video conference call, working in a remote distributed fashion. This is a very new thing for the legal industry. It has typically been face-to-face meetings, telephone calls. So video conferencing is new. And then, sitting behind that, I think people are beginning to realize, lawyers within firms, but also on the client side, that technology can help them do things more efficiently. And they're actually now actively looking for new ways of doing things to make their lives easier. So I think COVID is having a really interesting, accelerating effect in terms of encouraging people to adopt new technology.
That's very interesting. I completely agree in regards to the video conferencing and our reliance on it. What is the importance, or how important is it for tech startups, for the economy in this critical times?
So just to make sure I understand the question, how important is the tech startup?
Yeah, so tech startup
piece in the wider economy.
Yeah.
Well, look, I mean, there's obviously been a lot of disruption that's come from COVID, and certain sectors have been hit badly. And I feel very sympathetic to people who work in the retail, hospitality, travel sectors, who, many people now are out of a job, being furloughed. It's very challenging times. But I think looking back at 2008 and previous crises, more broadly, you tend to find that an event like COVID and this crisis and the disruption it causes has positives and negatives. And those positives are often a kind of shaking up of things and a kind of creative destruction that can lead to innovation and increased efficiency. And I think, going back to 2008, we saw this with the banking crisis, and a lot of very smart people leaving big banks with ideas, taking the plunge, starting companies, and then fueled by sort of venture capital investments, growing the fintech space in the UK economy, which obviously has done fantastically well, and been a big success story. And I think we're seeing the same thing potentially at the moment. Certainly we are seeing it in the legal space, as per the previous question you asked. We're really seeing a focusing in on the need for new technology. We're seeing on the supply of capital side, a number of VCs and investors looking for new, exciting, disruptive technologies, which are going to create a new paradigm for, say, the next 10 years. And they're looking actively for sectors that are ripe for disruption. And that includes the legal space, but I suspect it also includes the property space. It includes the retail sector. It includes hospitality. So the tech startup landscape is it is always a driver of innovation, and some of the companies that are emerging now have the potential over the next 10 years to become very, very big players with very significant contributions to the UK economy as a whole. So I think it's right that there is an importance that's placed on that.
Completely agree. And what is the importance of developing cloud-based software that enables remote collaborative working?
So I think there are a number of elements to this. I mean, the question kind of presupposes that remote working is a good thing. I think it is. Why is it a good thing?
Yeah.
Because I think it allows people to more finely balance their work and their family lives in a way that works for them. I think it's going to make people generally. I think it's going to make people happier. It's going to give people freedom to work more in the way that they want to work. I think there's a potential challenge there, which I've certainly seen as well. I don't know if you have, that I find I have to be very careful about how I manage my diary, because it's very easy for my day to get filled from 8 a.m. in the morning, right through to the evening. And if you're in a work environment, in an office environment, you wouldn't be in the office until 9 or 9:30. And you would have gaps in between the day because you'd be traveling to and from meetings, you'd be grabbing coffee with some colleagues. So I think there is I think there's certainly a challenge there around sort of managing the expectations of people, and not letting yourself have some downtime. But I think on the whole, it's a good thing. And then, bringing in the other piece, I guess, why does software matter here? Well, it's absolutely critical, isn't it, to that architecture, allowing people to be able to do what we're doing now. It wouldn't have existed probably 5 years ago, or 3 years ago. And software like we're developing, which allows people to all look at the same thing. It has a kind of digital whiteboard functionality, allowing people to be on a conference call and look at something together and comment on it and move things around in real time and create a digital record of that interaction, which is more efficient than, a drawing on some text on a whiteboard that then gets photographed, is really, really important.
And lastly, where do you see StructureFlow in the next 5 to 10 years' time? What are you anticipating for the company?
So we think there's a huge potential for us. We want to build a product that can become the gold standard platform for visually driven, data-rich corporate structuring, to the extent that every major transaction that happens in the corporate world is conducted using our platform, both in terms of designing that transaction and how it should be implemented, but then also creating a workflow around that as to the execution of that transaction. And we want to build a global business with a global platform. We're just beginning to make some good traction. We're climbing the foothills at the moment, but we can see, some big mountains in front of us. So there's a long way to go, but we think we've got a really good chance of getting to the peak.
Thank you so much, Tim, for today. Don't forget.
Thank you, Abigail.
No worries. Don't forget, you can follow Data Economy on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and Instagram, and visit our website on www.data-economy.com.